Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Take Three podcast. My name is Brennan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Alex. We are here on a Tuesday afternoon, just coming off a Monday night football game. Not really the best Monday night football game that I've ever seen. A 13-10 game in Seattle. The Saints, they don't really impress anybody, but they find a way to just narrowly beat Pete Carroll and his gum chewing and Geno Smith up there in Seattle. It's at the end of the day, it's a good W. I mean, when you look at this week as kind of a whole, in review is kind of status quo kind of remained again. I mean, there was no real like super surprise on the slate. I guess you could say a surprise was a beatdown the way the Tennessee Titans beat down on the Chiefs. But I mean, we've seen kind of what the Chiefs are giving us lately. And then the Bengals, obviously, I guess there was two surprises that, and then the Bengals kind of go on the road, tromp the Ravens. I don't really think anybody saw that. We all knew the Bengals could win, but I mean, nobody thought 41-17, absolute bottle up Lamar Jackson and dominate. And then, I mean, just on the other scope of things, Denver lets everybody down again. You face Case Keenum. You think for once they'll do something. I got to apologize to Dearness Johnson, too. That guy, what's the point of paying Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt if you got that guy? That guy seems like he can run pretty damn well out of that backfield. Denver continues their spiral downhill. Carolina follows as well. They are just abysmal the past couple of weeks. I don't even know what to say. The Sam Darnold project, I guess when you play the Texans and the Jets and you play those teams, you can fool people for 3 weeks. It happens. And then we see the Patriots. They score 54 points. It's the Jets. We saw Zach Wilson, PCL sprain, but the Jets got the shit beat out of them. The Jets are they're the Jets. Robert Saleh took over. They kind of look like more of the same. So before we really dive into the topics that I kind of got on hand, what did you see out of this week? It was kind of a normal week outside for a couple of things. To be honest, the teams kind of held their fort.
Yeah, it wasn't a super exciting week with the exception of those two AFC games. The AFC, I feel like we come on here for the recap every week, and the AFC leader is different every week. It keeps getting shaken up. So it's really hard to determine who's the actual best team. We know who the elite teams are. And I think it's funny. I find it interesting. Last week, we talked about Cleveland needing to show up on Thursday night, or maybe we'll slide them out. Well, they showed up. They got the win. They weren't incredible or anything, but Kansas City got absolutely dominated, looked horrible. And we were talking about sliding the Browns out of the AFC like top dogs. It's time to slide the Kansas City Chiefs out, which is a crazy statement. I don't think any of us thought that before the season started.
Yeah, it's definitely super surprising. Yeah, nobody kind of saw this Kansas City team kind of unravel. We kind of saw a sneak preview of it in the Super Bowl when they got bottled up pretty bad on no big plays happening, and we're kind of like, damn, let's just blame it on the O line. Like it's definitely the O line. Like they'll come in next year, they'll repair the O line, and then the Chiefs will be back in business and booming. And that's kind of a good spot to start. To be honest, I believe it was the first time under Patrick Mahomes. He didn't have a touchdown. He went 20 of 35, 206 yards, no touchdowns, a pick, another kind of weird interception where I don't know if you can really blame him. It bounced off somebody's hands, and then a Titans guy dives and picks it off. But I mean, it's another week where that Chiefs offense just doesn't have any home run plays. When you look at the stat sheet and your leading receiver is Byron Pringle with 5 catches for 73 yards, you know that it's probably not it's not going to be a good day. And then on the other side of the ball, I mean, you got to give kudos to the Tennessee Titans. Tannehill, pretty efficient, 21-27. He had 270, a touchdown and a pick. We saw Derrick Henry. He was here, and they only let quarterbacks get into the MVP discussions. He said, you know what, I'll play quarterback this week too. He threw a touchdown, none on the ground, but he did get a monster, another 29 carries, 86 yards. And then AJ Brown he's getting his thing going. You've seen over the past couple of weeks, AJ Brown really get going. 8 catches, a $133 and a touchdown. So I mean, this is a good spot to kind of start where we're at. We kind of said it was must-win game for the Chiefs. You don't want to be 3-4 going forward. They got the Giants coming up. You would assume that's probably a W, but you still don't want to be in the spot that the Chiefs are. They've looked terrible. And Tennessee has kind of put it all back together as we continued on from last week. So, I mean, what did you see here? It's really kind of, as you said, is it time to start just take the Chiefs out of the equation in the AFC with the amount of teams that we see at the top right now in the AFC?
I definitely believe when we're talking about AFC contenders and real shots to represent the conference in the Super Bowl, it's time we take the Kansas City Chiefs out of that conversation. They have just looked so abysmal. And when the offense can't get going, man, do they look like a bad football team, because we all know how bad that defense is. And it's funny because the Chiefs know exactly what teams are going to do against them. They know exactly how they're going to defend them as well. And yet there's no real coaching adjustments. I harped on Andy Reid in the Super Bowl. I thought he should have came out in the second half and threw short, quick passes every single passing down. Just get the ball out of your hands really fast, reminiscent of like those New England Patriots teams with Tom Brady when the weapons and the line wasn't very good. Tom was releasing the ball like within 3 seconds of the snap. I thought the Chiefs needed to play like that, but we saw no coaching adjustments. Now, fast forward, we're 7 weeks into this season, and I feel like we're not seeing proper adjustments. They're going to do 2 high safeties so you don't get beat over the top through Tyreek Hill. And then they want to cover Travis Kelce in the middle, and they want the Chiefs to beat you by not getting chunk yardage plays, which is what they're so good at. And so they keep doing that. And we saw it in the Super Bowl, and we've seen it time and time again this year. And then the Chiefs defensively are just so bad. Their linebacking core is so atrocious. They can't cover anything. They knew Tennessee was going to come in here, play action pass, AJ Brown, and the linebackers just can't cover them. Like they know exactly what they're going to do, and it just doesn't matter. The Chiefs, the roster is just a mess. And going into the offseason, the Chiefs can recover and make a wild card spot, I think, but they're not going to actually do anything. They're just not good enough defensively, and they don't score enough points regularly to just get it done in the playoffs. So I'm completely out on the Chiefs. The linebacking core is so bad. When the offense can't get going, they really have nothing. And just if you're Kansas City in the offseason, it might be time to maybe trade Hill and Kelce and just redo the whole team. Obviously, you keep Mahomes, you just structure around that massive contract, but they're going to have a hard time building Super Bowl contenders when you're paying Mahomes that much money. It's going to be tough moving forward.
Yeah, the Chiefs got to figure something out. Yeah, everybody points at the defense, but it's really when you have a team that is a $400 million quarterback and the weapons that they have, it's kind of on the offense to really put it together and kind of mask how bad that defense is. I mean, when you look in hindsight, they didn't let Derrick Henry really go off. 29 carries, 86 yards. We all just assumed Derrick Henry would have his way. It'll be another $150. I think I even said in the preview last week, it's an easy $150. Like I'm already penciling in 2 touchdowns and 150 yards for Derrick Henry.
And I'm sorry to cut you off, but the crazy part is Vegas had his prop at like 120 and a half yards, which is incredibly high.
Exactly. And then when you look at them up 27, right, it's 27-0. You figure it's going to be a heavy dosage of Derrick Henry, and he's going to be able to break down that defense. And there was little rumors of players on the Chiefs defense kind of quitting. Chris Jones got questioned. Forget who 21 is. I want to say maybe L'Jarius Sneed. Don't quote me, but there was a play where he kind of pulled up. So you're kind of seeing there's definitely some locker room. I think there's some locker room stuff going on in Kansas City. But yeah, I mean, your offense, you can't have 2 fumbles lost and interception. You can't lose the turnover battle 3-1 when your defense is that bad. You just haven't seen, there's no I don't even really know the word continuity. You don't see any, like, there's no chemistry. That's what it is. No, there's not a lot of chemistry. There's not a lot of flow that we've seen in the past. And I think it's kind of funny when you looked at the Chiefs, they revamped that O-line, and really is that O-line, is it that much better? It's funny when you look at the Ravens, who's like, you figure the Ravens and Lamar Jackson are going to be battling with Mahomes and the Chiefs, and they just send them Orlando Brown to play left tackle like it's nothing. He's been pretty horrible. It's super they added him, and it's like, oh yeah, we're going to be like, this is the guy. Yeah, Thuney, and Thuney's obviously, I believe he has a broke thumb or a broke hand. He's kind of battling through that, but it just seems, yeah, the Chiefs are in, they're going to have to get creative. Andy Reid, we've known this. He's not an adjuster. We've seen it. Everybody that's watched Andy Reid, I mean, there's a lot of 12-year-olds that just tune into football today, and they don't understand the backstory of Andy Reid, but he's never been known as an adjuster, right? I mean, through his Eagles days, that was kind of his downfall in Philadelphia. And you're slowly, I don't know, I mean, it's not going to happen that quick, but you're kind of seeing this thing unravel as this is going to be his downfall in Kansas City, is when everybody figures out plan A, which is just bomb balls deep and beat them over the top with track stars and Hardman and Hill. And he won't be able to adjust and kind of attack underneath, get those guys going horizontally across the field rather than vertical. Yeah, there's just not a lot going there. It's troubling when you're 1 year into your $400 million quarterback's contract, and you're now sitting at 3-4. You got to be concerned if you're a Chiefs fan, I would say.
Yeah, and just seeing Andy Reid's team break down and not make adjustments, and like see teams figure them out three or 4 years into this Patrick Mahomes thing, honestly just makes me appreciate the Belichick Brady era, because they went through multiple different styles of football, always adjusted to the strengths of their roster. And like, you would think that's common sense, right, for coaching, but like you seeing so many elite teams not be able to adjust properly, and it just kind of puts into perspective how special that like tandem was for 20 years. I know that's like a side topic, but it just points it out to me even more when I see, because the Kansas City Chiefs are so talented offensively, but they we're talking about months down the road and they're still not adjusting. So it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, that's also a kudos to Tom Brady, who was always pretty much underpaid through his entire Patriots tenure. And even to this day, he's still taking pay cuts so that pieces can stay around him. You look at when a quarterback takes up that much of the cap, when he's taken up 60% of your cap or even 50% of your cap, it kind of to fill out the rest of a roster. It becomes a tedious task to really add quality parts, and it really forces your GM to draft well and really put everything around that through the draft, because you're not going to have a lot of flexibility in free agency to do anything. So I mean, it's a continuing story, but yeah, I'd be with you. As of now, I'd kind of pulled the Chiefs really out of this as a contender in the AFC. They've kind of unraveled fast, but I mean, yeah, to move off of that, to move on to another squad, a kind of team that might even have surged in and kind of stolen the Chiefs spot. It was the Bengals, Cincinnati Bengals. Hell of a performance on Sunday. They go on the road to Baltimore. They've been quoted as building this defense to shut down a guy like Lamar. I heard that from a Bengals fan. He said they built the defense to shut down Lamar and kind of bottle him up. And honestly, on Saturday, they kind of did that. They jumped out early and often. They got Joe Burrow going. They got a hell of a game out of Jamar Chase, man. That was like 8 catches, 200 yards, and I think it was 2 touchdowns, I want to say. He did his thing. But yeah, it just looked like, I mean, the Bengals came out and they did their thing. They really surprised the hell out of me. Like, I didn't think I went Ravens 6.5. I kind of thought it was one of those games where we would kind of buy in a little bit to the Bengals, but then they'd kind of unravel. This is their first like game on a stage like this on the road against a team that's kind of ran the division throughout the course of the past 10 years at least. But yeah, what'd you say? It was kind of Lamar and the Ravens. They came back to life a little bit. No turnovers or no interceptions out of Lamar, but 15 to 31, 257 and a touchdown. He had an 88 on the ground. He hit a beautiful ball to Hollywood in the end zone. Hell of a toe tap by Hollywood, but it just seemed like all Bengals early and often, especially when Jamar Chase is going to be beating Marlon Humphrey all day as a rookie. That's kind of a scary sight to see if you're a Ravens fan, and if you're a Bengals fan, you got to be excited to see a guy who everybody was saying he can't catch the ball in preseason and training camp. I'd say through 7 weeks, man, he can sure as hell catch the ball. What'd you see here?
Oh yeah, Jamar Chase is the real deal. In the preview show, when we leading up into this season, we talked about the Cincinnati Bengals being better but not quite there yet. Joe Burrow has made a huge leap coming off injury, and I want to apologize because I was incredibly wrong about the draft pick. I said I was in the camp of you should take Sewell, protect your franchise quarterback, get that offensive line better. Plus T. Higgins, I think, is going to have a breakout year, second year in the league, full off season, this and that. Entirely wrong. Jamar Chase is one of one, incredibly special. He was the right pick. Him and Burrow are going to be so good, hopefully for a long time. But I was just so impressed with Cincinnati. I've been impressed with them all year. And I took them to cover the spread because I thought division game is going to be close. Cincinnati stays competitive even if they don't win. But man, to come out to Baltimore and beat the brakes off them was incredibly impressive because I've been so high on this Baltimore Ravens team all year. They had the bad overtime, gave away the game against the Raiders to start, and then they rattled off 5 in a row. And they've been resilient in those wins. They've looked good. They've won in different ways. So I've been so high on Baltimore. But to see Cincinnati win in the fashion that they did, that was a statement game. They've arrived. They're here. They're legitimate contenders. They're leading the AFC North right now, a division that has Baltimore and Cleveland. Most people thought they were the 2 Super Bowl contenders out of the AFC North. Maybe it's actually Cincinnati. Nothing but praise for Cincinnati. I still like the Ravens. They'll bounce back. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Cincinnati later on down the road. That's going to be a good game to watch later on. But, man, nothing but praise for Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and then that Bengals defense. They've been so good against the run. And when you're playing a quarterback like Lamar Jackson in the Baltimore Ravens, it's very important to be good against the run. And nothing but praise for the Cincinnati Bengals team. I'm excited to see where they go after this because the expectations are now here. They have arrived.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they bottled up. They didn't give up any home runs against the run, right? Often teams will give up a home run play against Lamar. They'll let somebody slip. And they really only gave up the one bomb to Hollywood, the 40-yard pass. That kind of, I was like, all right, here we go. Like the Ravens are going to come back. It was 17. I think it was, yeah, that would made it 17-13. Wow, 17-13 Cincy, and then Cincy, I mean, they came all out after that, hit Jamar Chase, and CJ Uzama, national tight end day. That man had a day as well. I think he had 2 touchdowns as well. He kind of did his thing. But yeah, it's just a weird game when you look at the Ravens. Like they didn't turn the ball over. They obviously, the 5 sacks allowed are kind of concerning. Usually Lamar's able to get out and kind of escape a lot of those sacks, but they had time of possession. It was just the game where Cincinnati, they kind of dialed it up, and that's how it's going to be. Yeah, I think it's time we got to start respecting Cincinnati. It's super weird to say, but I'll give them credit where credit's due. They had everything rolling going into a game on the road where it's kind of like we don't know what they'll do. But I mean, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, that connection, it's definitely going to be a special one. I mean, if you're a Bengals fan, you got to be excited. Yeah, I'll definitely say it through 7 weeks. I was wrong as well. I was on the Panay Sewell train as well. Take him as well. Yeah, protect the quarterback. But hey, the Bengals front office, they might have finally got one right. Right? It's so weird for a front office that often whiffs to get one right, because Jamar Chase, he seems like a very special wide receiver. And then Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine, they also put up touchdowns each. So it was just really all Bengals. It was weird. I thought the Ravens would, it's those games where we saw over the past 5 weeks, maybe it caught up with the Ravens where you get down and you got to fire back. Sometimes you run out of ammo, right? You can't always fire back, especially when a defense is game, right? We got to give credit to the Bengals defense as well. They were game, getting after Lamar and just doing their thing.
So after a game where the Bengals dominated the Ravens and the Titans dominated the Chiefs, mixed up the AFC again, who would you say is your number one contender in the AFC right now? It's kind of all mixed and matched. And if you were to rank the top couple teams, how would you rank them?
I'm trying to think. I would still have the Bills at the top. Like the Bills would be my number one. Obviously, they lost in Tennessee, but it's like it's a weird spiral of emotions to go on the road, beat the Chiefs on the road, and then play the Titans on the road on Monday Night Football. Weird turnaround. So I'd have the Bills first. Honestly, Titans, Chargers, Ravens. That's like 2A, 2B, 2C. To be honest, you could really flip flop them anyway. It's weird. I'm still going to go with the Ravens. Like, I'm not going to get too bought in. I like what I've seen out of Lamar Jackson. Just think this was a 1 week thing. It kind of happened. So I'd probably go Ravens, Chargers, Titans. Yeah, so Bills, Ravens, Chargers, and then the Titans for sure. I like where Herbert was. As I said, last week was kind of just like one of those weeks where you win a 47-42 game and then you go on the road, you're bound to get your ass kicked in this league. And then, yes, Cincy would kind of be like right in there with the Titans. I'd say I'd have to mix them in there, like right around with the Titans. Going to keep watching them because like we don't know. Maybe they'll fall off the face of the earth somehow. But I like Cincy's definitely trending up. Like another couple weeks like this, they might surge into the top 3. But I would definitely have Josh Allen and the Bills at the top of the AFC crop, I'd say.
I'm going to have to agree with you entirely on the Bills point. I believe last week I put Baltimore above Buffalo, and Buffalo came off that very close Monday night loss against Tennessee. And like we said, it was an emotion coming off the emotional Kansas City game. So, and Buffalo still almost won that game on the road. So I would have said it was still Baltimore if they handled business against Cincinnati, but if you get the brakes beaten off of you at home, I can't put you at that number 1 spot. I still think it's Buffalo. And then, yeah, I'm right there. I think it's Tennessee, the Chargers, Baltimore. They're all right there. And then the Bengals and the Browns. But like, what's so interesting to me about that is Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Cleveland are all in the same division. So that'll work itself out because we're going to see them match up many more times and we'll figure out who's the best out of those. But as of right now, I think Buffalo is the best one. And I'm still going to put Baltimore second, even though they got their butts kicked against Cincinnati. I still like the Ravens. I think they'll bounce back. But yeah, I think the team to beat is Buffalo. It's Josh Allen and the Bills for sure.
Facts, and they got that crowd. Yeah, I just find it, I don't know. It's like as well as Tennessee is playing, it's like when I look at these teams, I just have to look at the quarterbacks. When it comes down to playoff football, it comes down to the quarterbacks in a sense. And it's like, and no offense to Ryan Tannehill, but I'm going to take Lamar and I'm going to take Herbert over them. It's like, it's tough. Joe Burrow's surging so fast that you give it another week or two. I'd probably say if Burrow keeps looking good, I'd take Joe Burrow. It's just I'm not entirely bought into Ryan Tannehill, but I like where the Titans are trending as an entire team. But I mean, when you're looking at like trying to look down the road at playoffs and you give a coach a week to kind of scheme it up, we've seen the Titans downfall in the playoffs time and time again, ends up at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The elite quarterbacks will make the difference down the road when the games really matter the most. And that's why I like Josh Allen. There's just so many young elite quarterbacks in the AFC, and it just hurts Tennessee that like Ryan Tannehill's very good, but he's not elite. And there's a fine line there.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's keep it rolling. Let's move into Sunday Night Football real quick. It was kind of the Mud Bowl. Not really. I mean, it was ridiculously rainy in San Fran. Carson Wentz leads the Colts on the road, 30-18 W on Sunday Night Football. Not the cleanest game. I mean, he was able to launch balls up. It was hilarious just launching balls up and getting pass interference calls. I think at one point he had like 100 yards passing and they had 97 yards worth of pass interference yards. I don't even know if that's entirely true, but I swear I heard Collinsworth say that on the broadcast. But I mean, yeah, it's just kind of another week. This is a game where if you're a Colts fan, you got to be happy. Carson Wentz puts on the two gloves, plays in the rain, and just does his thing, finds a way to get a W. Jimmy Garoppolo on the other side looked like an absolute disaster. Touchdown, 2 picks. The last one was really bad. Ball just slips out of his hands. It's like you can't have that happen. Elijah Mitchell looked good. I mean, he put up 18 carries, 107 yards and a touchdown. But then you look at Jonathan Taylor as well. Wow, they had the exact same stat line. Jonathan Taylor also had 18 carries, a buck, 7 and a touchdown. Michael Pittman did his thing. It's kind of, if you're a 49ers fan, you got to be concerned. And then if you're a Colts fan, you got to be excited. Carson Wentz kind of put it together, only had really one dumbass play where I guess it wasn't an interception. Like, I guess they considered it a fumble loss, but he literally.
They changed it.
Yeah, I don't know. In my stats, I'm keeping stats on this podcast at least. That's an interception. That's about as clear. Like he literally did a Mahomes fling the ball forward and throws an interception. But I guess in the NFL, they got to keep the stats for the QBs looking good. But I mean, other than that, he's been on point the past 4 weeks. Great football. Colts 3-4, they're kind of surging. Obviously, the Titans are 5-2, but I mean, the Colts are trying to battle back and get themselves in the mix for a wild card. And yeah, what'd you see here when you're looking at San Fran's kind of going the other way as well? We were both high on them preseason, and everything's going the opposite way now.
Yeah, this was an interesting Sunday night game. Definitely affected by the weather. Jonathan Taylor fumble, very first touch. Jimmy Garoppolo's last pass was that interception right out of his hand. Carson Wentz, the one that you said is an interception that got, for some stupid reason, was switched to a fumble. That it's just right out of his hands. The weather was a huge factor in this game, but it was interesting. This Indianapolis team is rounding into form, is what I expected to see. Like Carson Wentz, not like crazy big numbers, but pretty efficient, a really good run game, a good defense, and they'd be a pretty damn good team with a shot to beat anybody on any given Sunday. And I think they're rounding into form. The Colts started really slow. Carson Wentz is still working through some of those demons from last year, kind of getting back into form, getting comfortable with Frank Reich, that offense. They got Quentin Nelson playing. He's healthy. He's getting going and everything. So the Colts are starting to roll. They lost to the Titans already, but they got one more matchup with them. That would put them only half a game behind, theoretically, if they beat them, right? And you never know. The Indianapolis Colts could keep pace for that division. They're probably going to be a wild card team. I doubt it, but they have a chance still. This was the Colts team I expected to see. If I'm a Colts fan, I'm encouraged. I feel good today. Carson Wentz is starting to look better and better. He hasn't looked great or anything, but he's looking better and better. And each week you're seeing actual improvement. So the arrows pointing up for the Colts. I'm happy with the Colts. They're coming around, and they're going to be a dark horse AFC team. I don't think they're going to be able, when it matters most, to beat Herbert or Lamar or any of those teams we talked about. But the league is weird. It's an any given Sunday league, and the Colts are capable of winning any game. And on the other end, the 49ers, I am very disappointed with the 49ers. They sit at 2-4. Heading into the year, they were my pick for the NFC West. Incredibly tough division, but they've had a lot of injuries and they just haven't played well. They haven't really put it together. And no one's really questioning Kyle Shanahan to say his job's on the hot seat or Lynch as GM. But since they've both been there, they've only had one good winning season. And to be fair, it was an incredibly successful season. They represented the NFC, was very close to winning the Super Bowl. So it was almost a perfect season for him. But every other season's been injury riddled and hasn't gone well. I don't know if you're the Niners and you're seeing this ownership. I doubt they do anything because they just invested a bunch of picks into Trey Lance. But is there any weird scenario where you think Shanahan or John Lynch's seats are hot at the end of the year if it just keeps going badly the rest of the way?
No, I mean John Lynch probably. I mean those guys are probably safe, but yeah, as you mentioned, I mean we all regard Kyle Shanahan as kind of this offensive genius and like this great head coach, and yeah, he's only had one winning season as a head coach, and it was that Super Bowl year. Every other season's been any way you spin it, you don't like they don't put asterisks in the record books if there's injuries. Like every team in the NFL is going to have injuries. He's going to be beat up. The great coaches kind of find a way to scheme around it and find a way to get it done. But yeah, I mean, I'd say they're at least fine through next year, right? I'd assume that at some point Trey Lance gets back healthy, and it might be kind of his gig to really get him prepared for next year. I think they're going to eventually just punt on this season when you're sitting 2-4 and the division leaders. You're looking at the Rams, one-loss team, then obviously undefeated Cardinals through 7 games. Yeah, so I'd say those guys are safe, but yeah, it's just so interesting if we were both so high on them and they just look terrible. Yeah, the secondary's beat up. The pass rush, I thought that honestly, the secondary, I thought they'd get that maybe that Super Bowl level pass rush back and really attack quarterbacks and do what they did during that year. But clearly haven't seen it. I mean, they still have the run game. They really haven't. They kind of missed George Kittle. George Kittle's kind of, we're seeing him kind of self-destruct year by year now. He kind of had 2 good years. And honestly, watching that, it kind of makes me respect Gronk's run even more because of how durable he was through his prime, where he was putting up all those 1,000-yard seasons. We're kind of seeing George Kittle have 1 or 2 good years, and now he can't seem to stay on the field at that position. So they've really lacked a number 2. Debo Samuel's been pretty damn good, but I mean, Brandon Ayuk, who was highly regarded when they drafted him, he hasn't really been it. I mean, obviously Mohamed Sanu's old. They just haven't found a second target that they really trust without George Kittle being there. And yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't been very good. He kind of seems like that quarterback that we saw in the preseason, no confidence. And yeah, everything's going downhill for them. I like where the Colts are going though. Carson Wentz is kind of spinning the ball, similar to that MVP year. I kind of like where he's at. He seems to be getting more comfortable week by week, making. Besides the one bonehead throw, I liked how he's willing to scramble and make plays as similar as he wasn't in the past. He'd kind of sit in the pocket and just get drilled or do some scrambling out to the sidelines and try to throw up a prayer. But he's kind of running the rock around. So I like where the Colts are trending. And yeah, I agree. They'll be battling for a wild card. I don't know if they'll get it, but they'll definitely they're in the mix as long as Carson Wentz continues to take steps forward. Obviously, the ankles week by week will just get better as we've seen over the past 4 games. And yeah, it's like a tale of 2 teams. We see one team kind of going forward, and then we see the 49ers kind of going the opposite way and almost going to be punting for next year.
Yeah, and I think that that last sentence you said, the 2 teams going opposite directions, that's what made the Sunday night game so interesting heading into it, because really it felt like the loser of this game season was done basically. So shout out to the Colts for continuing their season.
Yeah, the 49ers are an uphill battle anyway with the Cardinals just being unstoppable. Just winning all those games. Yeah, they are behind the 8 ball. Let's move into we got late afternoon Sunday. We'll obviously just glance over this a little bit. The Tampa Bay Bucks 38-3, just absolute beatdown of the Chicago Bears. Really the only reason to talk about it. Tom Brady, congratulations, 600 career touchdown passes. Kind of remarkable what he's been able to do. He breaks Drew Brees' yards record, and then he does the touchdowns. He's just he's having fun. 44 years old, and he's still he's doing his thing. The Bucks continue their surge up 6-1, and then you look at the other side of the ball. It's kind of Justin Fields' tough day back there. Interceptions, 3 picks, a lot of fumbles. It's just nothing's looking good. I mean, Matt Nagy, yeah, he's just kind of not it. And when you're looking at an O-line, I saw a lot of people, especially in the group chat, I'm just ripping on Justin Fields. But I mean, we're in 2021 and Jason Peters is your starting left tackle. It's like you had to know it was going to be bad. Like I knew it was going to be bad when Justin Fields had 1 career start and he was the 2nd most sacked quarterback in football. It's like that's how bad that O-line is. Yeah, they're bad. Khalil Herbert, though, I mean, 18 carries, 100 yards. He's pretty explosive. And when you're missing David Montgomery back there, it's kind of good to see that Khalil Herbert's doing his thing. But other than that, I mean, the Bears are just they look abysmal. It's kind of all Buccaneers. Tom Brady does his thing, another 4 touchdowns. Leonard Fournette keeps it going, 81 yards and a touchdown on the ground. And then, I guess shout out Mike Evans, 3 touchdowns, and then him giving away Tom Brady's 600th touchdown. That was pretty hilarious. Everybody saying the fans should have kept it. And it's like, I guarantee if you try to keep that ball, I said it in a group chat, the security probably takes you away and you probably get nothing for that football. And you just have a story to tell of how you got heisted for Tom Brady's 600th touchdown. So it's probably good that he cracked the deal. I mean, he got a Bitcoin, he got a bunch of signed stuff. I would have maybe strong armed them into like season tickets for life to get the ball. I mean, he got 2 years worth of season tickets, but I mean, it's all fun and games. I mean, he walks out with, I mean, everybody says 500 grand. He could have probably got that, but I mean, if we're all being honest, he wasn't getting out of that stadium with that football. But would you
to be fair for that guy, he's got a chance of it turning into 500 grand with the one Bitcoin.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you save that Bitcoin up, you might get 500 grand, right? So
Yep.
I mean, he didn't make out with a bad haul at the end of the day. I mean, people say you could have made more. You can make more. You can get more for anything in life. You just don't know. With the way Bitcoin's going, take your chance on that. But I mean, what'd you see there? The Bucks they looked awful against the Rams. They kind of didn't have it, but they're kind of just now they're back to status quo. Tom Brady back in stat pad mode doing his thing. The Bucks kind of saying the Cardinals might be undefeated, but don't. You might want to keep your money on us in the NFC.
Yeah, to any bettors out there, it's smart to bet on Tom Brady in the playoffs. Let's just I would still take the Bucks as the best team in the NFC. The Cardinals are right there. I don't want to disrespect them. They're 7-0. They are right there. They might be better than them, but I'll go with the 7-time Super Bowl champion and the defending champs with Tom Brady and the Bucks. And then I just feel for Justin Fields, man. Matt Nagy sucks. The offensive line sucks. He's in a really lose-lose situation right now. Hopefully they get rid of Nagy. He has a real offseason. He can get a real coaching staff behind him and he can turn it around. But we've seen young quarterbacks get ruined all the time. So I just hope Justin Fields isn't ruined. And the one silver lining for the Bears is like you brought it up. Herbert looks good. 18 rushes, 100 yards. I think he's shown enough to where he's still going to get some work even when David Montgomery comes back. So good for him.
Yeah, he can kind of be the guy. And they really got to get rid of Matt Nagy, maybe ship off Khalil Mack. The Khalil Mack thing really hasn't worked out to what they thought it was going to work out when they brought him in. That defense hasn't been really that great when you look at his numbers over the course. When guys like Zadarius Smith have probably been more productive and are thought of as a lesser pass rusher. So the Bears they got to maybe invest every draft pick in some O-line and really set the team up with a coach and some offensive guys to get Justin Fields jump started heading into next year. But I'm with you. I mean, going into the playoffs, my money's on Tom Brady. I'm not betting against Tom Brady. I don't care if he has to go to Arizona. I don't care if they play the game. I don't care if they got to play at a neutral site. My money's going to be on Tom Brady until he gets knocked off, and he's looking better than really he might have. We can say better than he really ever has. He's kind of having fun. He's enjoying himself, and the Bucks are on the upswing. Really last game on the docket, just because we got a big time Jameis Winston guy here. Saints, they go on the road, not really a great game, but I mean, in the NFL, if you do enough, they count as a win. 13-10 win in Seattle. I mean, would you say 4-2? The Saints are kind of up there. They got burnt by DK Metcalf, and that was really probably the only highlight of the day for the Seahawks, to be honest. There wasn't much. I mean, obviously, when Russell Wilson's not there, nothing is really going to be going on. But I mean, I guess good W, way not to cover for the Saints. I kind of came on here last week, said Saints 4.5, dude. That's easy money.
Should have been.
Exactly. I mean, that's why Vegas is undefeated, right? You would think. But I mean, it's just Jekyll and Hyde Saints team. Even games that they win, they don't really look that great. Kamara, 20 carries, 51 yards, but he did have 10 catches and $128 through the air. So he kind of did his thing. Really, he was the main guy on offense. And then Winston. So, I mean, what'd you see here? It's another win. And the Seahawks are they're another team. Just they're trending out of this thing. Probably they're out of this thing. Let's be honest.
Yeah, Seattle's at 5 losses through 7 weeks. They're done as far as I'm concerned. But for the Saints, the defense played well. You give up one huge play to DK Metcalf in the beginning of the game, and the rest of the way, you only give up one field goal. There were some missed field goal attempts, but the Saints defense played well for the most part on the road, hostile environment, nationally televised game, Seattle. That's a tough place to play, even without Russell Wilson. But to me, it's the Saints offense. That's really the story of the team, right? You've seen weeks where they came out and dominated the Green Bay Packers. That clearly looks like an outlier 7 weeks into the season. And then you saw them get their ass kicked against Sam Darnold and the Panthers, which feels like an outlier because they're trending in the wrong direction. I'm not really happy with this Saints team. I thought their offense would be better. I'm happy with their record and that they're squeaking out these wins, but man, they're just figuring out ways to win, but they don't look good doing it. Jameis is getting to air the ball out a little bit more. He's gone over 200 yards the last few games, but they're 4-2, and Jameis won just this is another W for Jameis without an interception. I expected more out of Jameis, but the expectations have been tampered down now through 7 weeks. I still feel good about the Saints team making a wild card spot. 12 wins is too high, but I had them at 12, and I said that was the high end. I think they can achieve at least 10 and get a wild card spot, and I feel that's still very much on the table. If you go through their schedule, 9 to 10 wins is very achievable. They're going to lose more games. They're going to lose to the Bucks. They have tough opponents, but their schedule is soft enough to where they can squeak in and be a wild card team, and that's kind of what I expected out of them. They're not better than the Bucks. They're not one of the elite NFC teams, but at this point, I think they can be a wild card team. And I still think they can hit 10 wins. I just expected more out of this offense. Maybe Michael Thomas can give them a little boost of life in a couple of weeks, but that's really their only shot.
Yeah, Michael Thomas will surely give them like a solid target, right? Other than Alvin Kamara in that offense. It's kind of really the whole offense is Alvin Kamara. No real disrespect to Marquez Callaway, but I mean Michael Thomas, a little better receiver than Marquez Callaway is. Kind of sure hands. We've seen it, and Sean Payton is certainly obviously comfortable with him. Yeah, I mean Sean Payton's just kind of it continues week by week as he's not going to let Jameis really overdo it in this offense. He's going to protect him. He's going to run the ball 20 times with Alvin Kamara. Obviously, it might be tough against some of the better teams, and you play the Bucks and you get down scores. I don't know how much you're really going to be able to do that, but yeah, he just the offense is very vanilla. He's protecting Jameis Winston, not letting him do too much. But I mean, if you can get a clean week with no picks out of Jameis on the road in Seattle on a Monday night in the rain, you take that and then you walk out over there with a W. But I mean, the good thing for the Saints is, yeah, I mean, I think I really went low on them. I think I gave them 6 wins. That was kind of some disrespect. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree they could get their 4 wins through 6 weeks worth of game or 7 weeks worth of games. Yeah, they could easily be a 9 or 10 win club. We'll see how everything unfolds. And then the good thing about the Saints is we really get to find out next week. They play the Bucks next week at home in the Superdome. Tom Brady's coming to town. So, I mean, we could see really their Sean Payton's kind of game plan of protecting Jameis really get exposed, and he might have to go out of the bag if Tom Brady comes out and starts putting up numbers and they're suddenly down 14-0, 17-0, or it really could force Sean Payton's hand. But yeah, I mean, he's protected him. The defense did their thing, though. I mean, that's really what the team's been this year. It's been smart offense, not turning the ball over, and letting that defense, I believe they're a top 5 unit so far, just do their thing and really carry it. And you'd hope the defense can bottle up Geno Smith. So
Yes.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So yeah, I'd say shout out Saints. They kind of surprised me a little bit, but I definitely didn't think that this would be the style of offense when I made my prediction. I thought that Jameis would have a little more. I thought it was going to be, yeah, he would have a little bit more like airing it out, really like him doing some crazy shit. But that's I guess that's kudos to Sean Payton. That's why he's on the sidelines on Sundays and I'm at home, because he has Jameis Winston at 4-2 winning ball games when Bruce Arians could not do that. But,
Yeah, and I agree. I thought they were going to air the ball out more. I just thought the offense, because like Drew Brees' arm did not look good the last 2 seasons. I thought he was going to get back to maybe a more vertical offense. We just haven't seen it. He's completing only like 59% of his passes, but the big number, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. If I told you that before the season starts, 6 weeks in, 4-2, 13-3, you would call me a liar.
yeah, I would have laughed in your face, to be honest.
I think you did actually.
Yeah, but yeah, it's clean football. Yeah, that's really it on the slate. I mean, I guess Carolina, they're kind of done. Sam Darnold looks like shit. Arizona keeps it going 31-5 W over Houston. It's Houston, but you still got to play the football games. Shout out to the Lions for covering. You know what I mean? They kind of really gave the Rams a run for their money. And then eventually, I don't know, they said, let's let Cooper Kupp run free down the middle of the field. And yeah, good play by Matt Stafford to kind of look off the safety. But I mean, everything other than what we touched on, kind of everything went status quo. Aaron Rodgers keeps it rolling. Another W over there for those guys. They're sitting at 6-1. They kind of really, it looks back to that week one was kind of an anomaly because they've put it all together and kind of looks good. Yeah, the league is really kind of it's kind of really shaping up. We're kind of getting to the point. I mean, the bad teams they're starting to trend downwards. Anything really else to wrap up week 7 before we kind of go over the spread picks?
There's only one other team that even comes to mind of like anything being interesting at all, and it's the 1-6 Miami Dolphins because they dropped to a poor Atlanta team by 2 points. And it just because there was real expectations for this Miami team heading into this season. Tua missed some games, but I expected more out of the coaching staff from Flores and the roster in general. I mean, there's already the rumors about getting off to it, maybe going for Deshaun, but like if you're Miami, would you make that trade, or do you think Flores and Tua are in the hot seat at all? Or like, what do you do if you're Miami?
I mean, they'll probably make that trade. They'll just force that trade and give Flores another year. I'd imagine it. I don't really think you should because, as I said, you can look at teams like the Chargers who have built teams around their quarterback and really set up Justin Herbert, build a no line around him, got Rashawn Slater and went on got Corey Linsley to play center. They've kind of put everything around him, and you really haven't seen the Dolphins do that. I mean, they went out and they got Jalen Waddle. And he's kind of done his thing, but I don't think on the offensive line is still bad. And then that defense really hasn't lived up to expectations in Miami to where, Brian Flores, he was a one-time I think he was like de facto defensive coordinator in New England with Bill Belichick. And so you'd expect him to have a defensive scheme dialed up, ready to go. And this year they kind of haven't been it. I mean, 32 of 40, 291, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Obviously, you got to clean up the 2 picks. But as I've said, it's kind of he catches a lot of slander, and Brian Flores just kind of gets to ride off into the sunset week by week. And it's Tua's got to go. Tua sucks. Tua this, the hip, and it's like maybe we have to start. I'm going to say week after week, like maybe it's time for Brian Flores to give it up. Because, I mean, I don't know. If I was them, I wouldn't be giving up. I mean, you have so much flexibility, right? You bring in Deshaun Watson, and you're going to have that monster contract. So you better have everything ready to go, right? And I don't know. Their offensive line still isn't great. And it's not going to be any better if you bring in a quarterback on a huge contract like Watson has. You kind of have that flexibility with Tua to add to the O-line through free agency and really build it up. So I wouldn't give up on Tua. But honestly, I could see them doing it. They will do it in a heartbeat if the price comes down even a little bit.
I wouldn't give up on Tua either. At least not give up on him for Deshaun Watson. That contract, you lose picks, you lose assets. But I do agree with you that Miami would do it in a heartbeat, and I think they will if they get the chance. Same thing for Carolina. Those are supposedly the 2 teams, but Deshaun really prefers Miami. That's the one team he said he wants to go to. But also, the Brian Flores thing, I asked you because I know how you felt about Flores, and I think you're right because, like, if you listen to the national media and, like, there's a love fest with Brian Flores. He doesn't really seem to get a lot of blame. I don't know about the local Miami media. Maybe they are harsher on him, but the national media seems to, like, it's always Tua's fault, never Flores' fault. I don't know. Interesting situation for Miami. I don't really know where they go next.
Yeah, they got to figure it out. It's weird that Watson would prefer Miami. I think Carolina is a better setup when McCaffrey gets back and those defensive pieces, everything's rolling. Plus, he went to Clemson, so I feel like the ties are kind of everything's in that Carolina area for Deshaun Watson to take over there. But yeah, I wouldn't give it up. I would probably give up on Brian Flores. He really hasn't been it. It's kind of taken a huge step back, but I mean, we'll sit back and see where they go. The trade deadline's coming up. I believe it's November 2nd. They got like 7 days, 6 days, 5 days to, they said the Watson saga is heating up. Who knows if he'll even be able to play if you trade for him. He can play. I've heard he's not going to go into the exempt list if he's traded. So he will be, if the Dolphins, they could roll him out right away. If they wanted to. The Houston Texans are kind of just protecting their asset amid the allegations, but it'll be interesting to see with a little less than a week to go in that. let's just wrap it up. Let's slide into our week 7 spread picks. We got a new guy at the top of the leaderboard, 10-2 week, pretty glitchy on the standings, kind of came out like a Vegas snipe, picked pretty much everything correctly. I don't know, dude. The Texans, they look good early on, and I was like, damn, like the 17.5 looks good. Obviously, I was wrong. I struggled 5-7, John 7-5. So you get a nice little, 4-game lead at the top after this week. Me and John both sit 48, 51, and 1. So yeah, it was a good week. It's kind of, I think it's like 4 weeks in a row where somebody goes off and the other two guys kind of just stay in neutral. Obviously I don't even know why I'm asking any games are you upset about. You only have 2 games that really weren't. I mean, I guess you could say, the Panthers and Saints, hypothetically, you could have been going for a 12-0 week. I think I have a couple more complaints on the docket than you would, but good week.
Yeah. Those 2 games that I got wrong, we already talked about. The Panthers are abysmal and the Saints offense just needs to be better. But yeah, I can't complain. 10-2. And my main goal for the year is to be above, even if it's just slightly above 500. And now I'm 5 games above 500. So we'll see. I'm sure next week I'll go 2-10 and it will fall apart, but we will see.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know where to start. Panthers, screw them. They're back to what we thought they were. The Chiefs really let me down. I'm done with the Chiefs. Sad part is they put the Giants next week, so it's like, do I have to rebuy myself into the? Do I have to like get myself rebought into the Chiefs? Texans was a long shot, just a lot of points. I don't know. Thought the Cardinals would maybe somehow lay an egg a little bit, still win, but not by that much. And then Falcons kind of let me down too, man. 2.5. They win by 2. Ultimate Vegas scam if I've ever seen
that
one.
was a lucky one.
Yeah, that was some old-fashioned bullshit. And then I don't know, Broncos. I can't even be mad at the Broncos. They're the Broncos. I don't know why I sat back and actually trusted them. So 5-7. We got work to do. We'll pick it up. We'll get it back together going into week 8 and hopefully get ourselves back to the top. It was a nice little 2-week run at the top, but this thing, it's going to happen like this. This is the fun of picking every game each week against the spread to see how we can do. Any really wrap up thoughts as we kind of close this up?
Last comment. I think it's funny that you're like, screw the Chiefs, the -5. You thought they could just get it done because of the Mahomes magic in the past. I learned that 2 weeks before when it was the Sunday night game against the Bills. I said, they'll just get it done because of the Mahomes magic. There's no magic left.
Yeah, they sucked up all the magic the past 2 years to make the Super Bowl. So I don't even know, dude. I might go crazy and take the Giants +10. I think that's the line. Early look into week 8. We'll see how that all unravels. But that's going to be a wrap for today's show. I want to thank everybody for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you have any suggestions, as we would love to hear your feedback on what we can do to improve. As always, the Spotify link will be posted in the description if you're an audio only listener. And that's a wrap for this one. We'll see you either Wednesday or Thursday with the week 8 preview as we kind of move forward to the midway point of the NFL season. Y'all have a good one.